Hello, welcome to 52 Weeks Live on a Wednesday. Insane. The reason we're doing it on Wednesday is because, let me get that little piece of hair done, is because we have something unusual for Thursday. So, obviously, Baby Drake needs no introduction. At least he shouldn't need any introduction. If he does, move along. Hi!
What's going to be on Thursday? Are you going to tell us now, or are you going to say
No, you'll see tomorrow. Hi, gorgeous.
hi, Alexa? I miss seeing you in person, but here we are.
I miss seeing you in person, and we had a good run there for a few months, like maybe 6 months, maybe a year, where we saw each other everywhere.
We have a lot of overlapping interests besides interior design.
We do. It's true. So thank you, Jamie, for doing this today. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody loves you. What are you drinking? Water?
Ice water.
Yeah, smart move. It's always really hot during 52. I don't know why. But I have been on a panel with you before where it was an architectural digest panel during their AD home show. And it was really, really interesting because it's one of the first things I want to talk to you about, because it was about the business of design. And I think many people think that talent and business savvy don't necessarily go together, but they should and they can.
Yes.
So will you tell me and everybody a little bit about how you started your company and the business advice you got?
Sure. So I totally agree that wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody had all sorts of a whole cookbook of recipes of different gifts and talents, but not everybody who's the most talented designer has a gift for business, and sometimes people who are savvy with business don't really do the best design. I think you are a prime example of someone who has both gifts in
I was like, oh, where's that going?
and also our dear friend Bunny Williams, who I admire enormously and just think is just a genius. I started my business without a business plan, by the seat of my pants and my gut, and by chance. I literally started it 2 days after I graduated from Parsons in 1978, because I had a very dear friend who I had met in high school, who met a very rich boyfriend. We all knew we met at the same time, and his father was very rich. And they called me 2 days after graduation and said, blah, blah, and his father both decided to move. Would you like to do the apartments? I thought maybe you'd like to do the apartments. I said, okay. So
Funny you should ask.
Right, I sort of fell into having my own business because I had not decided that was what I was going to do. I assumed I would go to work for somebody that's more traditional trajectory in design, of going to work with another designer and learning.
And it's scary to start like that because you don't have any precedent
And I
to
don't
follow.
To students coming right out of design school, especially ones who it might be a first career, I do not recommend the path I took necessarily.
Yeah.
There were always benefits. I always had more flexibility of time. In analysis, I had probably made more money, but it was a more uneven hump that I had to learn. And I had, to this day, since I've never worked for anybody, I have to ask people all the time, how do you do this? How did you do that?
And which one can do. Like, everybody is very forthcoming, and like just having the guts to pick up the phone and ask is huge.
Well, it's interesting. I'm always pretty much transparent with people, whether it's clients. I appeared as a keynote speaker for.
I can't hear you. Say that again.
Are they coming to get you?
Oh, yeah. Shh. I'm hiding.
So I appeared as a keynote speaker on this Genius Exchange, something that Gail Doe, and thank you so much for being so open about. Okay, well, there's no secrets. I mean, I'm willing to share that, but I think that I was blessed with. I'll honor my great grandfather's heritage, who came from Belarus. at the turn of the 20th century. And then I got Yiddish. So I have a kind of an intrinsic, ingrained business sense.
Good.
I'm very lucky with that.
And I think for people who decidedly do not have a business sense, it is still necessary that they get some. It's not enough to say, "Oh, I'm a creative.
No.
I'm not supposed to be good at this."
No.
You have to get some sense, or you have to know your numbers.
Or know that it isn't your strength, and hire somebody who you trust intrinsically and 100% to take care of those things, to negotiate the contracts, to get the deal signed, to act as chief financial officer.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can have that kind of level.
Right, and you still have to look at everything all the time and be at least conversant.
Absolutely. Sometimes I marvel and complain about, why do I have to do this? Why am I catching these errors? But as my business partner, I said to him, I was complaining to Caleb Anderson.
Yeah.
Like last week, I'm so sick. I said, I'm so sick of being the editor. He said, well, thank God you're so good at it. Because I can stop the mistake instead of drawing.
Shows that mistakes can be made by
anybody.
The totally professional people.
And the time to catch them is before they're built or built. The built or the build.
So, you've got your own place. You go to Parsons. Did you hire a this trustworthy?
No, not for the first few years. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years. I did it myself, and of course, things were so different then because we were just totally
right. It was all writing.
Right. I take a little checkbook around to the showrooms and I write the checks. I think that I had purchase orders where, with carbon paper and triplicate or quadruplicate, and I'd hand write them because I was a terrible typist. And then I, for a very short period of time, joined forces with another Parsons alum who I went to school with, who I think probably was, still in retrospect, was much more talented than I, but he had no business sense whatsoever and didn't really have good work skills. Sometimes it's like, Mike Bloomberg, he famously, as always says, he wasn't the smartest guy on Wall Street, but he
was there in the morning.
In the morning, exactly. He showed
and left latest at night.
That's right. He was the first there in the morning and the last to leave, and so his boss was impressed that he was such a hard worker. And
so that's an adorable thing for Bloomberg to say. I mean, I wouldn't. No. It's very self-effacing.
Clearly, he has other gifts as well.
Yeah.
But then.
Just a few.
Then the first employee that I ever had was indeed not a design employee. It was someone to do the business, to write the purchase orders, to write the checks and do all that stuff.
What do you think is, before we delve into your creative brain, what do you think is, well, I'll tell you what I think and then you will respond if you agree or not. Sure. When I inherited, for lack of a better word, when I found myself in the driver's seat in my father's company, he, Quaker gentleman that he was, had not shared with me vast troves of information about how the business worked. He would have felt that was vulgar to speak to one's daughter about such things.
Right.
So it was wonderful on the one hand to have an apparatus that was established. There was a method by which the office functioned, how we wrote our purchase orders, how we sent out our fee letters and stuff. But at the same time, because I was not entrenched in the habit from his point of view, because he hadn't shared it, there were some things that I looked at and immediately changed because I was like, I don't even understand this.
Right.
He used to do whole presentations, and then he would send the fee letter. So somebody could see the entire presentation. Not that people are nefarious or anything, but that just represents a whole lot of work to have no sense that you will be working together.
Right.
So given that, I was not Mark Hampton and I didn't think I would have such a gentleman's agreement with my potential clients, I immediately changed that. And then when the financial crisis happened in 2008, just as I had my third child, it became apparent that people were so excited to bargain for the thing, the piece of furniture, they'd go into stores and say, I'll give you this in cash. They wanted to get the thing cheaply. So then it occurred to me, well, this means our business is going to shift and the fees are going to get higher to offset that, to allow your client to the assurance that they're getting the least expensive thing, but iteration of the thing, the best deal, but that the fee, then they would not begrudge you making your fee as a talented artist. Do you feel that has been the case, and what are the most important habits that you took on or that you discarded?
So,
big question.
So certainly the industry has changed in the 42 years I've now been in business. And the first couple of decades probably, it wasn't unusual for an upholstery workroom or some workroom to offer you something, to send you a check back, to take a kickback. It's a hideous practice, hideous. And that has completely erased. We used to have clients all the time offer us cash. We stopped taking it years ago, but we haven't even had anybody offer us cash in a minute.
I have recently. Can you explain to me why is it good for them? I'm just going to put it in the bank. I'm going to declare it. But why is it even a?
Well, they usually expect a discount that they're going to.
Oh, okay.
Did your client not ask for a little discount along with the cash?
They did not.
Oh, that's interesting. So they must they somehow have a cash business, or they're.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's not go down that slope.
Yeah.
And so I think that the most important thing for me always is absolute transparency and cleanliness, and
what?
And cleanliness of your business practices.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ethics.
And I don't think that was 100% the way. I think even you're decades younger than me, but there used to be rampant stories about designers who didn't act so well with their clients. And I can remember times interviewing with a client who would complain about what happened in their previous relationship, and then turn to you and say, but your fee is too high. I said, my fee's not too high. My fee is transparent. You were paying that fee, but it was all, socked away what you were just complaining about. So
that is such a great point. My father also said, beware of people who have fired too many designers before they hired you.
1,000%.
Because if they're, happy to pull that trigger all the time, you might be next.
Right. Totally.
And then my Aunt Paula Perlini, who's a designer, said, if you're interviewing a couple, watch how they treat each other. Because if they're mean to each other in front of you, and that's the most important person in their life, for sure they'll be mean to you.
To harken back to your story of 2008, so here we are in not exactly the same sort of situation, but, there are parallels in this time of pandemic and reassessment of life and fairness in general. And we had a prospective client who we had started talking to at the end of last year, and it was kind of on and off, and along with beware of somebody who's fired too many designers, beware of somebody who takes too long to hire. Has always been something I've said. And
I'm so scared of, both all of these things that we're saying are about saying no to a potential client. I get very nervous saying no because you never know when that phone will ring, right?
Right, but I have to tell you this story.
No, you're saying the right thing, but
we met the wife was lovely. We met the husband once before the pandemic. He was pretty tough in the meeting. Not so warm and fuzzy, not so pleasant, but okay. Then the conversation did we have one more conversation? Then it went quiet again. And then they reached out in April, end of April. So we're in full swing pandemic and theoretically business turned down. And the conversation was so rough about their fees.
You mean like rapacious?
Yes. Like your fees are ridiculous. And when you get serious, we'll write you a check same day. And, you know, da 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 da. And instead, we wrote them the next day. No, thank you. We won't work with you. And we politely said why.
Yeah.
Because
Not for nothing, but you're Jimmy Drake.
and it was a budget project in a time where we didn't know what business would be. Now it turns out business is solid. And
Yes.
thank goodness.
And then, yeah, the idea of anyone dancing on the grave of the economy is makes one bilious.
Right. And now, was this the trajectory this whole conversation is supposed to be going in? I feel like I'm bringing up all sorts of horrible stories. Let's talk about something beautiful.
No, we're going to talk about your talent and your creativity, but I know that you and I have had really good business conversations over the years, and just from things like save your money, you know, like save, and I mean, when you describe how you started working, obviously you dedicated yourself to creating business capital.
Yeah.
All of those things are important for our fellow design world people to know that, like, that is very much in the forefront of all of our minds. If you want to do it seriously, you got to do it seriously. Which is not to say that you have to be a business genius, but it is a business.
And so it wasn't until later in life that I actually sort of accumulated more capital, but I expended the amount I was making, the nice amount I was making, on things that I think were marketing tools, even if I didn't fully understand them at the time.
Right, like for your own apartment?
Buying beautiful clothes, going to wonderful restaurants. And I used to say, when we used to spend so much time shopping with clients, because very few clients even want to go shopping anymore, that the time
I'm happy with. I don't want to go shopping.
The time I spent with them waiting for the elevator was the most important time. And there I would talk about, oh, have you been to this restaurant? I went here, I saw this show. And so that it was an imprimatur of validity and cultural validity. And
situating yourself on the map.
Right. It was,
as it were.
With the client, it was like sort of another version of doing a show house. And you know, I'm a great believer in show houses. I know as we co-chair the Kips Bake Boys and Girls Club annual show house, which we look forward to welcoming everyone.
And we co-chair the Hamptons Designer Show House.
Yes, and the Hamptons.
You and I like to co-chair together.
Yes.
Where'st thou go, I shall follow.
So I'm a great believer of the show house model, both from a philanthropic standpoint that supports wonderful causes, but from a marketing standpoint, and I've gotten work from it, and designers sometimes don't understand how many projects did you get specifically from that show house. It's like, well, it's hard sometimes to say.
It's not that kind of math.
Right.
It's like how much you get from publishing. I'm actually really bad. I don't ask my clients or homeowners how they find me. Sometimes they'll tell me and sometimes they won't. But
I always ask because I'm always interested.
I know I should. Yeah, I should. But it feels like a little noblesse oblige to not. Like, oh, I wouldn't dare ask you. Okay, so you're king of color. You've been king of color for forever.
You know where that term came from?
Where?
My first ever cover of a national magazine was my house in the Hamptons on House Beautiful, a spring summer issue of 2001. And
so this is the Marion McAvoy
correct.
House Beautiful.
And and she called me in the article the king of color, and it was the living room was the cover shot, and I was like so thrilled to be on the cover of a national magazine finally after being in business for decades, and so hold out hope, all you designers online, and then I started to think about it and marveled at, but wait a second, it's a white room with a 10-foot beige sofa and a taupe chaise and 2 medium tan chairs and some turquoise curtains and an ottoman and throw pillows. And I realized the power of how I used color intrinsically.
Yes. So that is the whole trick, is that it's almost a sleight of hand that you can use these neutrals, but to place colors in such a way that you walk out of the room thinking you've experienced.
And you do the same. You have such a painterly approach to your interiors and to your beautiful showrooms that we share together at Theodore Alexander. Are you going to High Point in October?
I mean, are any of us? I have a hotel room.
I do too.
I've got tons of stuff coming out. Hey, universe! I have tons of new furniture.
So I have a hotel room. I have stuff. What I haven't done is actually reached out to our lovely President Neil Robinson to ask him whether we.
So far, they say yes.
Okay.
So far, they say yes. So yes, big plug for us. Go to
Well,
go to
we'll have
Theodore Alexander. We have new things out, and Ralph Lauren is doing their big launch there.
Yeah.
So it will be very exciting. Somebody's asking that. Oh no, you just said it was a white room. It was not a yellow room that was on the cover of House Beautiful.
No, it had
White.
The primary color was this bright Bristol blue, like that Bristol blue glass.
Mm-hmm.
And they were double height curtains, 20 feet long, silk. And there was a big 60-inch round ottoman in the middle of the room covered in it. And there were pillows and even antique beaded pillows, 19th century beaded pillows with a cobalt blue in a few different places, and glass accessories and a wonderful 1950s lamp. And then the secondary color was taxi cab yellow. And there were a great deal of Wall Street in 19th century ships covered in taxi cab yellow, Middleman, hair on calf, and a couple of military belt yellow pillows as well. And so to me, it's always about the color connects. There's on this side of the room, and then your eye bounces over to the other side of the room.
Balance, and obviously you're using complementary colors.
It was an off-white room.
So great. I'm loving what I'm looking at behind you right now. Your current apartment.
That's where I am.
It's very colorful.
Here I am at home, and here people will say, "Oh my gosh, you live with so much color." But as you see behind me, the walls are gray. The floor, which is the two big.
But it's strategic.
Yes.
Like I'm falling into that painting. I'm falling into those beautiful flowers.
And I moved the flowers over. I set up this seat, and yet after all of the months we've been zooming, I finally discovered a much better position with a lovely backdrop. So I have that beautiful giant Thomas Roof photographic piece on the wall. The orchids actually usually sit on the.
Those are orchids?
Those are orchids.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Right. And then the ottoman, I pushed over a little bit so you'd see a little bit of that.
A little bit of purple.
Right. So.
I love purple, by the way. My father tried to brainwash me into hating purple. Though eggplant, I'm sure he liked. Aubergine, something different. And it stayed suppressed, my love for purple, for years and years and years. And it unleashed itself in 2010, 2012, and I haven't looked back. What's your favorite color?
It's interesting you talk about your father and his kind of dislike or distrust of purple. Do you think purple is perceived as being kind of a tacky color, a trash?
Yeah, or unserious. When I first fell in love with purple, it was as a 10-year-old, and I would wear purple Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, a purple polo, and
well, I have
maybe that's why he hated purple.
I have a wonderful little story that will tie together with your wildly talented and lovely father. In 2002, when I began the process of the historic preservation, redecoration, renovation of Gracie Mansion.
For Bloomberg.
Right, which your father had worked on during the Koch administration, and which I paid homage to many of the things he did by recreating them in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
For the parlor in the old part of the house, which had been done by Albert Hadley, but then hadn't been done by a committee, and you could definitely see it was done by a committee.
Right.
So I learned to be a historic conservationist, and I settled on this time period to anchor the decorative schemes in the late 18th century, early 19th century, the height of federal period. And I found lots of documentary evidence to propose this color scheme of orchid, like an orchidy purple, and yellow, and golden yellow, primarily orchid purple. And I didn't have free reign here. I was presenting to the Gracie Mansion Conservancy, which did include some experts in historic decorative art, such as Diane. Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain. She was head of the Cooper U for many years. And I got a lot of pushback. Every other room they were pretty much fine with, but that room they got a lot of pushback on.
Because a lot of people are commenting, it's the color of royalty. But yeah, you veer to a certain brightness of purple, and people do.
Well, I think it was and we didn't end up doing it. It was the only scheme that I had to change and present it. And I did a beautiful bright yellow, which came out of Monticello and out of Homewood in Baltimore, with a dark greens and olivey mossy greens. And it was only after I moved on, we have a new color scheme. I was told by one of the people, they just didn't like it. They were fighting you that it was not historically accurate. That was what they hung on, but I think they thought it was tacky.
Yeah, they just, or just, it didn't. When you're the steward of a house like that, you do get scared about that kind of pushback of, were we too bold? Were we?
Right. And I think that there was a perception of making sure that but it wasn't historically inaccurate. And I had all of my
all the proof you needed.
Exactly. But eventually, you just, like with any client, you can present the most gorgeous scheme to a client. If they don't like it, you're not going to live there. They are. So you have to move on.
Yeah, and there's not only one answer to any given room.
That's right.
What is your favorite room to design?
Oh, I guess probably living rooms, because I always imagine them filled with people and having wonderful parties and
I feel the same way. I feel like it's the most ambitious room. You get to really go for it. I was talking to Stuart Manger the other day, and he said dining room, and I was like, oh.
And look at how svelte he is and how buffy.
10.
You would think he must eat too much, but he doesn't. Well, now you're back.
Sorry, somebody started ringing through. What is the job that you haven't done that you'd like to do? And is there one?
Well,
have you done it all?
No, I would love to do a hotel, and I've never done a hotel. Have you done a hotel?
I've done a B&B. I would love to do a hotel.
And the other one I sadly guess I won't ever do is the White House. But,
why would you never do that?
Well, my friend who was running for.
Oh, you mean the obvious? You were definitely going to do it. Would he have won? Yeah.
Maybe.
Not
I don't know.
him. You won't be doing it for him.
It would have been a wonderful thing to do, and now we have actually, I think, a very high bar, because I think what Michael Smith did for the Obamas, spectacular in the private quarters. You know, the
but also in the private quarters, you can do what you know.
And I can't wait to see his new book that Margaret Russell.
That Peggy Russell's doing.
Yes, it's just out.
Look at you, just as an example, here we are, you're just like throwing out props to everybody else. This is typical effing Jamie Drake. You're the nicest person on earth.
They're going to send me 3% of every book that's sold.
Yes, I feel sure that will happen.
Of course, I love Peggy.
Yeah.
Forever. And I'm a great admirer. I don't know Michael that well, but I've always found him and his husband very charming when I have met them. And I'm a great admirer of his work. And I think probably what he did there for the Obamas was so modern at the same time rooted in traditional. It was fabulous.
It was I'm sure the first time the private quarters, I mean, obviously we don't know what all the private quarters look like, but we can guess. I mean, from Jackie, we know what they would look like. We know my father did it for Papa Bush.
And the red, don't you remember the Ted Graber rooms? They were gorgeous.
No, I don't. What are those?
There was of course, they've always been an AD with each presidency, I guess, at least in the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. They were ravishing and a really kind of chintz, not what you think of even with Ted Graber, which was so much more Palm Springs, desert modern, sunny land for the end. But
was that for Reagan?
Yes.
I have to look at that. That was such a, I don't think I was paying attention then.
Probably.
You were I think what Michael did was very, very cool. So you're a designer. Like you follow other people and what they're doing, and obviously we're all looking at you and following what you're doing. How do you think, or do you think anything is changing now?
Well, I think.
Like, is there an aesthetic that's changing? I mean, certainly function is changing.
Yes. Yes, function and with the pandemic, it's about all new reassessments of how people use their home and are going to work from home.
Yep.
Making new spaces to work.
And having more space for family.
Deciding their places aren't big enough. We have clients who are getting to building new houses. So it's a good time at the high end of our industry. I think aesthetically, I think that it's inevitable that people will re-embrace antiques. And your clients have continued, but most of our clients, the last 15 years, no interest whatsoever. Maybe we can work in one or two little pieces. Most antiques to them are from the 70s, not the
Right.
1870s or the 1770s.
Yeah.
And I miss all that beautiful stuff and going to the wonderful antique dealers. We're gone. There's so few now.
Well, there are exciting things happening in the world of antiques in terms of how they are being sold and how they will be sold more online
Right.
as we go forward, since people can't necessarily go out.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to, I hope, I'm going to, you know, put that dream out there. Hopefully it will present a lifeline to that industry and to people who want to get into that industry.
Right, and I think that there's reconceptions of how to present the merchandise, such as, was it Sotheby's recent sale from Rembrandt to Richter? Or if you think about the Masterpiece Fair, which I've gone to every year except this year when they didn't have it, which was not about a specific place and time, and the Winter Antique Show, the Winter Show now, is about, you know, just about beautiful things all together and how to put them together. And I think that that's really, I'm not looking to create period rooms for people to live in.
No. But and if you want your room to be special, you have to know those stories that those pieces tell.
Yes.
You know, I hate it when people call it brown furniture.
Right.
Because it's, you know, that's such a reductive statement. Like that piece has a story to tell. It exerts a force on a room in some fashion.
Yes.
What?
An incredible uniqueness.
Yeah, incredibly. Somebody just said phones with cords could be antiques now. And I would like you to know, Bulls & Co., that I have an old-fashioned phone on my bedside that I got off of eBay, you know, with the hello, and it's delightful. It is heaven.
Cute, fun.
Do you have a place outside of your apartment?
No, I used to be out in the Hamptons for many, many years, and I sold my house in East Hampton about 10 years ago. And I happily reduced the thoughts about running a second household. And now,
well, your apartment's pretty.
Yeah, I have a wonderful apartment. I was
generous apartment.
Quarantined for three months, hardly suffering, with enormous windows overlooking the Hudson, 16-foot ceilings. It was a very nice quarantine. I learned to use my apartment much more because I was always dashing out every night to an event or dinner. Now I learned to sit down in the living room and read in the living room and watch TV.
Do you watch TV?
Now I learned again how to do it.
I love that you had to learn it.
Yeah, I had stopped. I probably hadn't watched a show. I hadn't had a show since The Sopranos. And what was that, 25 years ago?
Oh, no, not that long. But yeah, it was a different era for sure. It was the beginning of this this new golden age of TV.
So I started to think about, and I looked a little bit up in Connecticut about maybe it's time to have a second home again. And, you know, I think that's, they're as horrible as the reasons we've all learned to rethink things and learn to work in new ways and live in different ways and interact in different ways. There are good things that have come out of this learning experience, which are about slowing down a little bit, learning old skills. I went back to the kitchen. I had stopped cooking 20 years ago. I learned to cook again. I didn't learn.
Well, we've all gone back to the kitchen. I've had a little. I'm done with that actually.
Enjoyed it.
But I like getting behind the wheel of a car now
and
listening to music.
And were you you stayed in the city almost the whole time, or you were out in the country?
No, not at all.
Right.
You left. We've been staying at my mother's house the whole time. I'm only in because I had a job site and I have to get my nails done.
Oh.
You know, do important things.
Okay.
But no, you know, obviously now the housing market is going insane. I mean, if you're considering buying a second home now, I would caution you not to.
Because of prices.
Because the prices, yeah. People want to be away from the city, and they want to. I just found out today that my daughter's school is going to begin remotely. And I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with the boys.
Right. I'm sure they will be, and they probably should be. I was reading the article was it in yesterday's Times, about how Israel reopened too quickly their schools, and a huge viral outbreak from a high school. That, besides being in the schools, the students and the teachers then brought it home to their families and neighborhoods. I mean, enormous circle that came around it.
We gotta take care of our teachers, and our kids, obviously. But it goes without saying.
And kids who come home.
Yeah.
I had dinner with 2 people last night who said they have the antibodies and they were never sick at all. They had no idea how long they had them, but they could have been passing at some point.
Yeah, it's
transmitting.
So have you been going to job sites?
Oh, yes, again. Yes.
And are you driving?
I was at first. Now they've started ticketing again, so I'm not driving myself. Now I'm actually taking an Uber or a taxi. I've never been at finding that for me traveling by public transportation was as efficient. And where I live at 11th Avenue,
Yeah.
isn't so efficient to get to the east side. You have to go miles to get to a subway or a train. I'm not a train taker. I like to do my work at the back of a vehicle.
I like light. But yeah, whenever my kids start again, we're going to drive them just because they usually take public transportation.
Right.
But we're going to have to do that. I'm sorry, I keep going back to COVID. So what's the most exciting job that you're working on right now? I know that's a loser question, but I want to know.
I'm very excited about a house we designed from the ground up. That's being built currently in Deer Valley in Utah. And it's really spectacular, sprawling, modernist mountain house.
And when is it due to install?
I would say that we'll be installing hopefully by fall of 2021.
Okay. Oh, wait, of 2020. You mean like any minute now?
2021.
Okay, good.
Right. Well, this construction is still going. It's early stages of construction. I would say we're going to be lucky if we get it by fall 2021. But
yeah, I think people who need to do construction need to get those contracts signed with their contractors and get going now because they're all going to be booked.
Right. They started construction. We started construction in November, December of last year. And they didn't actually ever shut down there in Utah, and nothing was enclosed anyway yet. Nothing.
Well, I think it's considered essential services in a lot of places.
Yes, right. Connecticut, I don't think ever stopped.
Yeah, Connecticut never closed down. Well, I think. I know that the projects I'm working on didn't. Tell everybody about Caleb and about your new partnership and how that came about, and tell us everything.
So, Caleb Anderson is my business partner. That's the change of the firm name from Drake Design Associates to Drake Anderson a number of years ago, a few years ago. And it's actually we're in our 5th year already. It's quite some time.
Unbelievable.
And so I guess it was 6 years ago I started to think about, I'm not somebody who wants to work when they're 75 or 80. I don't think.
Do you think that's true? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so. And I started to think about how would I look at continuing the firm, continuing to service the clients we have, continue to take on new clients, continue to grow, support our staff and team members, the talents that we have. And I thought about a few different options, but what I really settled on was the best probably path for me was to take on a business partner.
And how many people are you?
Right now we're 16. We're not huge.
Okay, that's a big practice.
Aren't you like about the same?
No. I am 10, 9. I'm down there. The smaller, the more, I mean, I'm on every job, as I'm sure you are. You can only take on so many then.
Right. So I started to think about it, and I said, I think a business partner would be a great way for me to continue forging forward with a little less stress on me, sharing roles and jobs and this and that. And I attempted to make a list of possible candidates. And beyond 4 or 5, I was really hard pressed to add any names. And it's not just because there aren't so many wonderful, lovely people out there or so many talented people, but when I'm thinking about what it takes to run a business, as you know, as we talk
and chemistry
it's not just being talented. You need to have a business sense. You need to have a marketing sense. You need
And this is your name. You can't mess it up.
and I really wanted to, I never was against, I always was for having the name of the firm change. So it wasn't just like somebody coming in,
Right.
and being saddled with a name. I wanted their name on the firm to announce this is a full firm.
Yeah.
And my number one candidate, Caleb, who I had met when he was in college, he came into his internship with me once a month. And then after he had graduated and worked a little while in Texas, I offered him a job, and he came and worked with me for 3 years. And then he decided to leave and go to work for a firm that had a broader array of projects, including commercial and retail and some hospitality, which I could have killed him, but I admired the decision.
Yeah. Well, and it proved your love. If he left and you missed him, that's something.
Yes, and then he had an experience at this other firm, so we got to learn how a different firm worked. And then he didn't really like working there that much. He didn't find the culture that supportive, and he decided to establish his own firm, and he was established for a couple of years, making traction. So, he was doing show houses and things that I...
Yeah, and beautiful work.
Right. And so I assumed he'd just say no. But I said, this is what you want, this is your number one candidate, ask him first. And he said yes immediately on the spot. He didn't even say, I have to go home and sleep on it.
That's wonderful.
He almost fell off his chair. He didn't say immediately. He did sort of fall off his chair practically, but then by the time we concluded our lunch, he said yes. And it's worked out.
Did you know you wanted somebody young? Did you want the energy of somebody younger, or somebody? I mean, you had worked with him, obviously. So I guess that doesn't make it an age thing. But that energy, somebody younger and a different generation, is fun.
Yes, but it was really about Caleb, because I think about the other people who were on my list.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he was the youngest, I believe, but the others, nobody was my age. No, I don't think that you start a partnership with somebody when you're looking to think about not working and possibly retiring. That wouldn't have made sense to me. But it's been wonderful because he has skill sets that I don't particularly have. Like, he's wonderfully organized, and he will, when we get a new project, he does the most detailed, wonderful schedules with target dates for in our office to hit, as well as that he can present them to the clients. I never did those things. I was kind of like,
amazing.
oh yeah, it's 9 weeks. Where are we with this thing?
I totally commiserate.
Yeah. So,
oh, great.
It was good.
I don't think you're ever going to retire. Is that okay? Can't we just work until we die?
I don't think I want to.
Really? I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told it on 52, so I'm going to just go for it. I was once in a car in Florida being driven somewhere, and the guy driving just slammed on the brakes, and I went, into the back seats of the front. And I said, sir, do you mind, can you slow down so our braking is less dramatic? And he said, where are you from? And I said, New York. And he said, well, you New Yorkers, you retire, you come here to Florida and you ruin our traffic. And I was like, sir, I don't know you and you don't know me, but my people don't retire and go to Florida. They die. They work and then they die. I'm like, we never make it to Florida. So he was like, okay.
I think the wonderful thing about having a partner is that gives one the flexibility to decide how that might be defined at 70, 75, 80, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think I would love to go live in the south of France for 3 months or 6 months. I don't think I could.
I don't think the design community could live with you far away.
Oh.
I don't think we could take it.
Oh, you're so cute. Thank you.
I'm not cute at all. We couldn't. Think of it. Let's talk about all the design world industry events that you support. So you are a co-chair at Kips Bay. You're a co-chair at the Hamptons Designer Show House.
And a co-chair of the Kips Bay President's Dinner with Bunny Williams.
Yeah.
You and I are co-chair of the Show House. And the President's Dinner, which we had to postpone our usual spring event, we're going to have a virtual event on September 10th, in which we hope that all people will attend.
Yeah, and we're going to need everybody to give us money so we can help support the kids that we're supporting.
Right, right, and that's what it really is about. Is a reminder about how important the funds raised from the President's Dinner are to the 10,000 kids who benefit.
And especially now. Especially now. Yeah,
So
obviously.
we're working on a wonderful, quick-moving, not hours and hours and hours event, but a nice 45-minute event where you're going to see some surprises and some surprise guests and no long speeches. And for September 10th, 7 p.m. tune in.
And you don't have to wear pants.
Right. And I'm the chairman of the Alpha Workshops.
Yes,
board.
the Alpha Workshops. Talk about that a little.
Right. So the Alpha Workshops, which I became enamored with, I guess, about 24 years ago, is an organization that was originally founded to service the community of people living with HIV and AIDS who were not all of a sudden all 100% dying. They were coming out of care and hospices and things like Bailey House to continue their lives.
Yeah, I was going to mention Bailey House next.
And so it was a school established by Ken Wampler to teach people to reinvent their lives and re-engage in the decorative arts. And to this day, we do the most beautiful wall coverings, lamps, plastic.
And it's expanded its artisans to
So we're no longer
homeless,
the DNA
to
community, where to communities in need, physically and mentally, in many ways, in many directions. And so we've continued to thrive and service more people. And then I sit on the board of Parsons School of Design, my alma mater. And I sit on the board of the New York Community Trust, which is a sensational, enormous organization that many people don't know about. And the New York Community Trust, we have almost $3 billion in funds and assets that have been left to the trust for distribution ongoing. So we don't.
as an endowment that
Yes, we don't invade.
that throws off money, or
Yes,
okay, great.
correct. And so we're coming up I think 2 years on our 125th anniversary, and we support really important causes and basic needs. We don't build a wing at the Met or underwrite a new production of an opera, but we may underwrite 1,000 kids from the a poor neighborhood in one of the boroughs to attend an opera or to go to the Met and have studies. And we support organizations for immigrant communities, for battered women, for formerly incarcerated people to turn their lives around, for hunger and healthcare needs. I mean, I remember after 2008, we made an emergency grant of $1 million to the Food Bank of New York because a full 20% of New Yorkers couldn't put enough nutrition on their table. That's 1.2 million people.
That's
Can't put enough food.
unbelievable.
1.8, no, 1.6. Now, 8 million, right? A city of 8 million people, 1.6 million people. It's staggering.
And I feel like, I mean, I certainly don't think design is frivolous in the slightest, but I mean, it's not, especially after this experience that we've gone through. Boy, do you realize how important your surroundings and your home is. But I think for designers, we have a very vital philanthropic community around us that we should all be trying to participate in, whether or not it's giving small donations or volunteering, or even I know we've had you talk at the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. There are just so many, for me, the New York School of Interior Design as well as Parsons. There are lots of great schools. There are lots of great philanthropies, and it's great because we're this city, or for many of us who work outside of the city, it's taking care of us.
You'll be happy.
And we got to take care of it.
That the week before last, I had 2 different days where I did 2 different crits via Zoom for a NICET project.
That's so great.
So I'm happy that I sit on the board of my alma mater, but I'm happy to support students. Ellen Fisher reached out to me at other schools that are so impressive, such as the New York School of Interior Design.
Yeah, a rising tide, raises all boats. All of these schools, the better they get, the more, and they've gotten, they are so good.
Yeah.
The more legitimate the career is. And a lot of people I talk to on 52 Weeks will say, when I first came to this career, my parents weren't very supportive. They're like, how are you going to make ends meet? And it is a thriving career that one can have.
So one of the things I did for NICE, one was for students who've been selected to work on a project for the Nantucket Design Week thing. Which
I did that as well.
Right. The other was for a summer program that NICE runs for teenagers who are thinking about careers in interior design to learn about whether they really are interested in it. And usually they came to New York from all over. This year they didn't, but they did it online. And I used to every year have a group of 30 to 40 students come in. But this year I did it via Zoom, and it worked out very well. And try to just talk about what my career trajectory was, what goes into my life as an interior designer, and just like we're doing now.
Just like we're doing now. I'm just checking the clock. We have 8 minutes. Okay, so that's good. So now let's talk about sex. No, I'm kidding.
You go first.
Yeah,
So
now, tell me, you said you had to relearn your apartment. What have you, do you wake up and force yourself to exist in different spaces?
Well, I didn't have to. So when during the real lockdown, when there was a period of time where for weeks I didn't go outside, and then I would start to foray a little walk by myself, sunny day sitting on a park bench by myself. I made sure that my life stayed sort of normal. I didn't sleep till 11 or lie in bed wallowing in some sort of faux grief. I got it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with sleeping till 11.
I don't have that anymore. But I positioned myself. I created a work from home space at the end of my 17-foot long kitchen island. I'm very comfortable on my bar stool, my counter height stools, and it's still arranged over there. Do you have a light ring on now?
No.
Well, you beautifully lit. I ordered a light ring and I forgot to set it up.
I have quite a bit of window.
Right. So I ordered,
somebody wants to know who that artist is behind you.
Thomas Ruff, R-U-F-F, and he's someone who does photographic pieces. At least this is one of his photographic pieces, and they're actually portraits that are then digitally manipulated to a completely different image. I mean, you can fool yourself and say, "Oh, I see a nose there." You wouldn't see a nose there.
Yeah.
There's no nose there. But the way his colors all come together.
It would be great if it were a portrait of you.
Right.
But I think right now we've got to teach people how to use their houses. We have to teach them how to use them to the max,
Right.
and how to enjoy them to the max.
And as I was cooking 3 meals a day for myself, I made sure that they were beautifully plated, and I used, I have some plates that I have just one of that was like a grandmother's. I would plate it. I had multiple sets of silver accumulated from over the years. I would use different silver and different napkins, plate it. It became kind of, maybe stupid to take pictures of it and post it on Instagram, but people engage with it, and people were like, "Oh wow!" And it
is nice, and people get just on the silverware thing. People buy silver and then they don't use it. They get it for their wedding or for whatever, and then it sits in a drawer. My mother was always like, "You got to use it; it'll tarnish. Just use it, enjoy it."
I don't have any stainless steel anymore.
Of course you do, Jay McKinney.
Well, I have cooking utensils, but I don't have things I dine with. Only
No, I think why have it if it's, it might get dinged up. So be it. You're living your life.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for doing this
It's
today.
nice to get to spend.
You've brightened our day like nobody's business.
So we'll see each other in High Point or somewhere soon enough. If not, maybe we'll just have a Zoom cocktail time, the two of us.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you.
Thank you so much, and be well.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.